Maurice Chang, the CEO of TSMC, said, "Without strategy, execution is aimless. Without execution, strategy is useless." Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of my cast, which we have titled The New Norm. I'm your host, Nitpreet.
And I'm Piyush. Our guest for today brings with him more than 21 years of industry, management consulting, teaching, and research experience. Prior to joining academics, he has worked with Avalon Consulting, IBM Global Services, Wipro Consulting, and iGate Patni as Director Consulting. Before he moved to academics, he was designated as Vice President, Market Intelligence at Barrow Incorporated. He has been associated in advisory capacity with Unilever, Tata Steel, Ashok Leyland, TVS Group, Tata Chemicals, and ABP Group. Welcome, Subrat sir. We're really excited to have you with us.
Thank you, Piyush, and thank you, Nitpreet, for having me here.
You're welcome, sir. It's a pleasure. So, sir, how do you view the new business as usual in the post COVID-19 era?
Nitpreet and Piyush, if we look at the world today, post this COVID, there are about four key trends that have impacted the world. One, and all of you will agree with me, and all of you would have observed as well, is the customer sentiments and preferences have completely shifted online. Everybody wants to avoid any contact-based transaction. So transaction costs in strategy parlance again has gone down, and most of them are led to e-commerce or digital based. Second, trend that has happened is the workplace norms have become remote and digital, which all of you are aware of, and that is why we are doing probably this recording virtually. Else, probably we could have done it in the campus. The third thing that has happened is governments across the globe, different countries, along with the different agencies like WHO, UNCTAD, and so on, have started announcing stimulus packages, whether it is for the MSME, whether it is for the agri sector, whether it is for the allied services, or packages for the base of the pyramid. And fourth and finally, we all keep hearing, and one day Baba Ramdev comes up and says, "You know what? I have got the cure for something," and somebody else raises his ugly head and says, "You know what? Have this kada or tincture, in other words, and then you will be all fine." And on the other end, WHO is saying that it's even airborne. So you don't know how to stop yourself. You stop breathing, or you keep wearing jackets around and keep walking, right? So the knowledge to test, trace, and treat the virus is changing daily. So now these four key trends post-pandemic world are continuing, will continue. So therefore, the implications that are there for businesses post COVID-19 would fundamentally be around reconfiguring supply chains and establishing linkages upstream, downstream, off the fly, real time, off the fly. So that will talk about your flexibility and your adaptability to bring in resilience. Second will be the HR policies and practices and labor laws. And you never know, ILO comes up with new set of labor laws post COVID-19, keeping this pandemic in mind. They're going to change. So therefore, leaves, you have some standard leaves. For every 2 days worked, you get every 15 days worked, you get 2 days of paid leave. So those laws probably could get a change and shift, because no more leaves are going to be stuck upon so very strongly and hard fast, because a person could still be at home and probably enjoying what considered as on at work, and person could be facing some problems and had to probably take a leave, but would not be because he's expected to work virtually. So therefore, there will be a very thin line that divides some of these HR practices and policies. And finally, demand and supply side uncertainty are not going to go so very soon, because the backlogs, the blockages, the chokings that has happened in the supply chain, and the distrust that has already spread because of the breakages in the supply chain, linkages, that probably will take some time to be ironed out, until unless, of course, you are representing some world class firm which has managed to iron out those supply chain nervousness issues, even immediately just after the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sure, sir. You have like brilliantly listed all the trends and factors that have changed post COVID. So, in Indian, coming to the Indian scenario, there are various companies across sectors in India. So, how do you think like different companies reacted to the pandemic? Were the Indian companies fully aware of the vulnerability of their supply chain relationships, or did they just got to know about it because of the pandemic?
To some extent, supply chain risk and risk planning, disaster management does happen. It would be wrong on our part to say that firms are not prepared to manage supply chain risk. We also have a supply chain risk consulting. Having said that, I would here like to bifurcate the answer by industry and would say that preparedness of different industries were at different levels, and also it was a function of the firm maturity. So, on one hand, companies like Nestle, Procter and Gamble, and Levers would definitely be more prepared and better prepared and matured to manage such pandemic situations and disruptions in supply chain as against, say, a Dabur or maybe a Patanjali, right? In addition to that, I will also say that yes, this pandemic has led to a lot of lesson learning, and this was kind of a shakeout. But firms that don't survive the shakeout, they fail and they collapse. And this particularly this pandemic, because of COVID-19, is one of the shakeout lessons for the firms. So firms basically on this have faced several challenges. So one of the new things that firms came to know was a huge spike in demand for essential items. And you would have read in the newspapers 3 days back or so, the salt industry in Gujarat, in Kutch area, which was suffering prior to this pandemic, has made huge profits because of the hoarding that happened for essential items, including salt. So, therefore, that is one learning that firms have had with respect to spikes in supply chain, huge spikes for a sustained period in supply chain. On the other hand, non-essential items have suffered. So, therefore, there is backlog and there is accumulation in the warehouses on the non-essential items because the consumption of those items suffered a postponement. Now managing those stocks, and then the upstream stocks which are there at the supplier level, the supplier level, and so on, is also a bottleneck that these firms have to face and have to clear up. That is another thing. Firms have also faced liquidity crunch, and we are aware of it, and we know very well, especially the MSME enterprises, huge amount of liquidity. You will go around, if you just take a short drive in whichever town, city you are, you will see, if you pass through shops and you look at the shutters, you will see the shop is on sale, or the shop is on the lease is over and the guy has left, and shopping malls will become vacant. I will see this as an opportunity, and we will come to that, why I will call this an opportunity. And of course, in the perishable items, in agri produce, so all of these definitely have suffered, but it's a good shakeout. Such shakeout lessons should happen. It is like the surprise quiz that you guys get. So I haven't told you. Probably I could do a surprise quiz tomorrow. So surprise quiz is a shakeout for students. So similarly, this is a shakeout for the industry. So this makes sense.
So, so while you were talking about this, I was just thinking. So, we know that the pandemic is still here to stay for a little while. So,
Hmm.
should the organizations develop plans for keeping in mind an optimistic scenario or a conservative scenario? What would you suggest?
Okay, so a pretty good question. Very interesting, Nitpreet and Piyush. You have prepared a very fine set of questions. Yeah, I generally have a very disruptive view and opinion about about business and things. If you ask me, I would like to take this as an opportunity, and I would rather stay optimistic on this rather than conservative. However, my answer would again be, I would like to divide my answer based on the industry. In industries like essential items, right? So essential goods, consumer product group, and then pharma, food and beverages, consumer durables. So in these industries, I would like to stay optimistic because they're going to bounce back big time. All of you will agree with me that there is a lot of pent up demand which is still lying dormant. All of you will agree with me that people's expressions have remained subdued for quite a long time, so the action will have a reaction, so the reaction is going to be big time. I would not say that the reaction would start by Christmas or the New Year of December, or it could so be that it could get lagged further by say March or April of 2021. But when it comes up, it comes up big, especially in these FMCD, FMCG, food and beverages. The rebound is going to be really sharp. In the next category of company industries, like agriculture, like allied to agriculture, like farm equipment, or say fertilizer, chemicals, etc. These would also see a big boost, because these are going to support the produce, and agriculture is going to get a big boost, guys, I'm telling you. So if you have good land banks, it's advisable that you look at a career of farming, and farming different things in the summer of 2021, not the summer of 69. Other industries like IT services, technology firms, hotel, airlines, travel, entertainment, these are also going to have a big boost, and big time boost. So whatever downside has happened with the theaters, with the content generation companies, which visit our campus pretty often, or with airlines and travel services and travel agencies, they're all going to see a very strong and very happy times, I assure you. 2021, lot of holidaying, lot of consumption of complementary goods, etc. On the beverage side, all of this is going to see a big boost, is what I would put my money on. However, I would be slightly cautious on the old economy stocks, which is pretty obvious. That is metal mining, infrastructure, aluminium, cement. So these are the stocks that I would be slightly cautious. I would not like to build inventory in these. I would like to play around and be more agile, and I will like to keep handle on how they are moving, how the demand is moving, and track the global markets, and accordingly plan my production pipeline, and my inventory, and my warehousing, and my logistic services, and so on, in these kind of industries.
Sure, sir. You mentioned like various positive trends across industries. So, talking about some of the new age technologies, so let's say IoT and blockchain, so
Mhm.
they had already started to make disruptions in these industries.
Yeah.
So, in the post COVID world, what role will such technologies be playing? And do you see that they will be employed into newer domains or newer industries as well?
Very good, Piyush. Thanks for asking this question. I think you know what it's a brilliant job that you guys have done. There are a lot of newspaper articles, coverages that you today find, and they talk about industries, they talk about supply chain. But I believe they do not do justice with respect to coverage of new age technologies and their role in the post pandemic or post COVID-19. Especially IoT, artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies, etc. See, blockchain is nothing but distributed ledger, which all of you are aware, and the world over is aware. You will also, you, me, all of us know that the Prime Minister of India made a fund, and a lot of donations came in. And whenever such kind of disasters or pandemic kind of things happen, a lot of donations and funds do arrive. And not just in India. I'm sure similar replication has happened in other parts of the globe. Now, if again there is a common platform on the blockchain, the transparency and the genuinity of the information is there with everybody. And everybody has a view, all the different state governments, the central government has a view to the fund generation there, and therefore the accountability on the funds and the fund usage is not in one single hand, but the information is transparent and shared. So the effective utilization, because of infused accountability, increases, and that is again something which could happen with blockchain. The thing is you know what is basically health data surveillance, and sharing the data in India today. While we have the Arogya Setu app and we are trying to monitor, but then you know what, yes, it is there. But if we had all the states linked, union territories and states linked on a blockchain platform, the data sharing, surveillance tracking, tracking of patients by talukas, by block levels, would have been all the more transparent, unique, and something that cannot be fudged or altered and changed. So that is how blockchain and these new and technologies would have actually been a boon to us to manage these hazards and pandemics much better. And last point I will like to make here, where the drone technology comes in, where the IoT devices come in, IoT led devices is especially reaching out to the interiors of India and the hinterland, which where the access and connectivity is so very less. So by application of IoT led devices, etc., and drones, so a slum area like, say, like the Dharavi slum in Mumbai, so now, through drones, etc., the view of the slums, what is happening in the slums, are containment practices being followed there or not? So that is how these technologies like IoT or blockchain, etc., would help in managing disaster and managing health practices, data management, patient tracking, etc., much better.
So while you were discussing about this, two things came to my mind, sir. So one is that how is this pandemic? We've been talking about a lot of industries and sectors.
Hmm.
So one sector that came to my mind was this retail sector. How
Hmm.
do you think is this pandemic going to rewrite the rules of retails?
Hmm.
And with retail, I want you to focus on the in-person experience that
Yeah.
people usually prefer retail for. How
Yeah.
can they rethink about the in-person experience in these current times?
See, Nitrit, I think one of the biggest shocks that's going to happen is the retail industry. You've rightly pointed it out. In retail, again, what is it that is going to be impacted the most, as you have pointed out, is again is in-person experience. The ambience that we create in the retail stores and how it takes transcends a buyer or a shopper to an emotive stage, and where he or she is carried away more by emotions rather than rational or logic, and ends up in impulsive buying, which the brand wants one to indulge in. So that is something which is an in-store, in-shop experience. Now that is going to be one of the biggest hits, at least till we have done the vaccine, and then the vaccine assures the shopper to visit and do physical contact. Having said that, it is not possible for brands, big brands of that stature, to postpone their sales till the period depending on the vaccines. It's not possible that Baba Ramdev finally announces and says this is the vaccine. So that's not possible. So such brands can't wait for so long. We have to agree that we can't avoid e-commerce led sales. While big brands like Mango or Tag Heuer cannot postpone such, they will have to depend on specialized e-commerce sites and deal with loyalty programs and deal with the customer analytics and look at the customer profiles from the databases, start specialized campaigns to them, start pushing of products to them, with of course whatever in-store branding, in-store sales promotions they were doing, that budget could be moved on to online sales with very specified and specific packaging that is done to identified customer based on very strong retail analytics. So retail analytics is going to be key. Entire digital platform is going to be driven by smart decision support systems based on artificial intelligence based tools. Now, coming to the other part of retail, which is not so high end branding. Now, that is where when we go and buy from Big Bazaar, etc., I see that as an opportunity. And if I were Big Bazaar, who is about to get sold off now, and I was Big Bazaar, I would seize this as an opportunity, and I would say, you know what, I got an opportunity. I don't need to maintain such big outlets because people are going to be afraid, and people are afraid to come to the store. That's good for me. Anyway, I carry inventory, so I will basically convert these stores into warehouses. I don't have to depend now on operating costs of keeping store manager, floor manager, and several people, etc., and all of that. Just manage these warehouses and start delivering through probably I use the genies of of Zomato and Swiggy, etc. Just go on online sales like Dmart was doing during the time of lockdown. So Big Bazaar online sales start delivering and rather concentrate on not maintaining sales and such big assets, convert them into warehouses. lease the warehouses if you want to, reduce your operating costs, and look at distribution, home delivery. So I will see to it at the retail end of such kind of outlets, say a big bazaar kind, etc., would be very fine to not have physical based contact and look at it as an opportunity. Rather look at the last mile distribution, hyper local distribution, right? Get hyper local, get last mile, maintain just warehouses, maintain stocks of items. You've got long history of data of consumer buying patterns. Use them to predict your demand, and then use it to deliver products. Do a co-branding and tie up with Zomatos of the world, or start a service of hyperlocal. At least that can make you even more profitable. I believe that will be in addition to a revenue stream.
Yeah, sure, sir. Thank you for listing it down so extensively for us. And even we were having similar thoughts while we were discussing the retail sector amongst ourselves. So, another domain that we'd like you to focus on would be sustainability.
Hmm.
So, could sustainability see more adoption in businesses? So, what I mean by that is in terms of sustainable business model. So, would the new economy paradigm focus increasingly on them? And would the purpose thing come to the forefront, or will it will not be focused on that?
Now, for businesses to be sustainable, they need to be constantly reinventing themselves and need to have a strong tab on the environment, because the environment is very dynamic. And these days, when we define the strategy for any firm, we no more say that the strategy is for a long term, 5 years to 7 years. We do not use the long term at all. Today, the short term is the long term, and even the short term sometimes can be as short as 6 months to 1 year. So you may need to, within 6 months, there is a disruption, tech disruption, and you will see that your value chains are completely reconfigured and new linkages have been established, and your business model is completely changed. You were a product based company, but you have completely migrated to a services based a revenue stream. Or you are a services based company, and now you have completely moved to platform and network based, therefore. So you have created network based entry barriers, and based on networks is what is your driving your revenue model. So that is how firms need to be sustainable, is what I would say, Piyush. But it's not an easy job, and that is what actually differentiates a world-class firm from a not so world-class firm, or a firm with excellence with a firm with average performance. So that is what steps you out. And I think we also talked about it when we discussed about Pankaj Ghemavat's value assessment, where he talked about the burn rate, and the innovation appetite of firms.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving us that direction towards how businesses could look at sustainability. So
Mhm.
now I would like to ask you something which is also for our personal benefit. You are
Mhm.
specialized, you're known in MICA for the business forecasts that you make. So we know that the retrenchment period saw companies shed its employees across all sectors.
Mm.
How do you see recruitments for us in the near future?
Okay, very nice. And you should be bothered about it also, because that is why people come to business schools, to give a boost to their career and that spike, right? If you recall, post the dot com burst, the boom was big, and it's Newton's third law again. The deeper the down curve, you have to go down to come up. Otherwise, the fun of going up doesn't come in. So unless you don't go down, you don't come up, you don't feel the up. And deeper the down is, the stronger the pent up is, and stronger the reaction is, and the firms will boom. Because there is no firm which wants to remain, subdued, or or under control for a long period of time, and therefore the boom is going to be big time. And here the good part, this kind of a pandemic has actually led to arresting people inside houses. So a lot of consumption, spend, travel, enjoyment, celebrations, functions, rituals, disasters have happened in families, and people have died. And even that, people have not been able to take care of in the right spirit, because there is a lockdown and control on community meeting, etc. So that is a huge amount of pent up frustration and emotion, and human being has created wonders, from the atom bomb, you call it, to the nuclear arsenal, to the first man on moon, to so many disruptions that they have done globally. I believe that this emotion is slightly going to the softer side of social sciences. This emotion is going to find a strong expression, maybe by Jan, Feb, but the boom is going to be really big. And you can already see, if you have gone through the papers, HDFC went ahead and announced increments. The same has been done by ICICI Bank. The banking industry has already started taking precautions and cover. Many of the manufacturing companies have already announced increments, and they are taking special pains to get the workforce which is now migrated back to the homes, whether it is Orissa or whether it is Bihar or UP or Jharkhand. You will also, if you go to the papers, you would see that firms like Nestle, all these companies have reported robust bounce backs, and they have been able to seize this as an opportunity, and they said that there's nothing that has happened bad, and we are looking good. Similarly, you will also have to realize, Nitrit, Piyush, that they need workforce. They need intelligent workforce. They need decision support systems. They need people to take decisions. They need people to manage systems, right? Now, given the kind of depression that has happened because of this COVID pandemic, etc., everything has become, helter skelter and harakiri. Now they want to structure it and bring in some structure to the madness, and there is also that kind of hunger for every world class company to go for world class people, right? So everyone wants to grab it, and if they want to ride the wave of opportunity and bounce back, they need people to run firms and organizations, right? So there is going to be equal as much anxiousness and anxiety in people, in the HR's minds of firms and the business, to hire the best and good people. So there is going to be huge amount of competition among them to get the best bed. So I believe this is an opportunity. Yes, it could be a delayed opportunity with some amount of a lag, but I believe it is a very good opportunity and strong opportunity, especially for the batch of 2021, because you are not passing out in 2020, rather you are passing out in 2021, and that is where the lag factor is already adjusted. So the lag factor is adjusted, and that is the boost that is going to be. Watch out, watch my words. It is an opportunity here, and you will finally say yes. There I durust hai. Slightly late, but then much better it is.
Thank you so much, sir. You've given us that you've shown us that path of light, and we can definitely hope for something positive in future.
Mm,
Because I'm pretty sure every student who's been listening to this podcast might have this question that what is going to happen to the placements this season?
mm,
And you've answered that question amazingly well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Even we were looking for such words because everywhere we're reading news, we're reading everything, we're finding all we are finding is negative news.
Mm.
And amongst that, you're saying that we're going to
No,
bounce back. It
that's
feels so
because
good.
of herd mentality. People have a herd mentality.
So, sir, now we are going to move to a fun section, which is the
Mm.
rapid fire round.
Yeah.
So, we are going to ask you questions and you have to answer to them, be as candid as you want, sir. So,
Mm.
sir, shall we proceed?
Yeah, please.
Okay, sir. So we're going ahead with the first question. Which new technology do you think will transform the future?
Blockchain.
One thing that MICA does differently from the other business schools.
That is creativity. Yeah.
Okay. If I asked you to pick between consulting or teaching, what will you pick?
Now my mindset has changed. I'm not anymore a young aged guy, so I like teaching. That's my passion. I want to transform people's lives.
Perfect, sir.
Yeah.
So, sir, what was the last thing that you liked on social media?
I don't like social media, etc. so much. I liked on social media. I can talk about what I disliked on social media. The way people,
But we know that you dislike social media. That is why we want to know what was the last thing that you liked
Yeah.
on social media.
uh,
Any post or any meme or whatever.
actually, I was not knowing what is a meme before I joined MICA. I came to know here only. So, yes, what I like is an opportunity that social media gives me to probably get some deep insights, if actually it gives deep insights. So, that is where the bias element is, which I don't like. But if it does give, then that is what I like, if it is able to give some deep insights.
Okay. Next question. So what chore you hated during the lockdown period the most?
What chore I hated the most? Yeah, I was doing
Yes,
some
sir.
amount of utensil washing, but that I was doing for my as a de-stress, stress buster. So I would, you can say probably that I hated. You know what? Especially while you wash after that, वो जो लग जाता है सामान ना, वो साफ करना बड़ा मुश्किल लगता है.
So, you know that this is a scenario of virtual classes these days. So,
Hmm.
would you rather teach for 8 hours straight in a physical classroom or spend 4 to 5 hours in one place in a virtual classroom?
No, I would like to teach 8 hours in the physical classroom because that is where you impart the best knowledge. And we are in the industry of imparting knowledge, and it's a very noble profession. So if it's a noble job, do better be noble and do it nobly. That is what I would say.
So the next question is PowerPoint or Excel? What's your jam?
Excel.
I
I
don't think
kind of
there are any
predicted that.
surprises, yeah, in that answer.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, 3 words that your students would use to describe you, in your opinion.
No nonsense. That's what they keep talking also, and sometimes rude, but straight. Yeah, because that's what I am. I don't like to spend mind share in thinking how to give an impression because that is wasting mind share and resource. Rest, it's the God to decide. So he's going to give a final certificate to me. बाकी rest तो all of us are same. वो जो आनंद वाला dialogue है, हम तो कठपुतली है. So it's that. So that's what I believe. Yeah.
Okay. That sums it up perfectly. What is the one thing that if your students get to know, they would be surprised about you?
I sing well. You haven't heard me singing, so I sing well. I have learned a lot of. I have played tabla also a lot, so I know in playing instrument. I
Okay.
can speak several languages. I was very good in Malayalam. I was very good in Tamil. I've of course lost touch of those languages now. Of course, I speak well Bengali and all of that. Oriya is my mother tongue. Got a strong passion for the music from Ilayarajas and all of that. And Yesudas is one of my favorites. So maybe the South Indians in your class will be a bit surprised. I could give them a run for money.
So that was very surprising. We never expected you to be someone who's going to be into the arts and cultural side as well, into music. Beautiful.
Great.
So, sir, what differences do you see in students when they're in a morning class to the coming sessions in the afternoon classes?
Because today's generation stays active till about 3 o'clock in the night, so the morning classes become difficult for them. So definitely by afternoon they're better and they're doing well. But unfortunately, when you have to run 4 sections or 6 sections, your classes have to start in the morning unless you're changing your window and moving to a post lunch kind of an evening. So of course, then that will suit the students more. So I find the students more active post lunch rather than definitely in the morning.
So talking about your lockdown experience, what are the 3 words that describe them?
Highly frustrating. Highly frustrating, 2 words, only two is enough. Highly frustrating. What else? Very frustrating. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So the last question,
Hmm.
what are the two memories or what are the two things that you missed about MICA in this phase of lockdown?
So, physical teaching in the class, which is the most important thing, because of which we are paid, and which is my job, which of course occupies my maximum mind share and this thing. So that I miss the most. One. Second is of course the campus in MICA, but I am not as much driven by campus, etc. These things don't matter to me much. I would still focus around my class experience. That's about it. So one is me teaching in the class. Two is the outside class interactions with students when I am trying to bring in some change to the lives or contribute something which helps them probably win something or do something, achieve something which I can just spend some time and share my experiences and can help. So those are the two things that I would say I miss the most. Yeah.
Wonderful, sir. So, thank you so much for taking out time for doing this podcast with us. I hope it was a good experience for you. It was a wonderful experience for the both of us. We got a chance to have a one to one conversation with you. We've had conversations with you in the classrooms as well, but
Right.
this was a completely different experience for us. I hope
Setup.
you enjoyed this. Yeah, completely different
Yes.
setup.
Yeah, I did definitely. Thanks a lot, Nitpreet and Piyush. Thanks for considering me for this podcast.
So yeah,
Thanks.
thanks a lot, sir, for
Thank
all the
you.
valuable stuff that you shared with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
So guys, that was it from our side. You can follow MyCast, the MyCon podcast on Instagram, and you can stream us on JioSavan Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcast as well. Keep sharing, and yes, stay safe.